Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome to episode 2 of Huddy's podcast. If you have not checked out episode 1, make sure you go check that out right now. But today, we're going to be recapping what we have seen from the NBA playoffs so far between rounds 1 and 2 in every single series. We'll start in the East with the 1 seed 76ers versus the 8 seed Wizards. Now, this series was kind of predicted by most people that the Sixers would end up beating the Wizards, with the Sixers' talent mostly coming from the point guard position between Simmons and Embiid at center. It was kind of obvious that the Wizards did not really have the talent in their bigs between Daniel Gafford or Alex Leonard and Robin Lopez to beat a guy like Joel Embiid and even honestly Dwight Howard off the bench. Although I think that Daniel Gafford was a really good pickup at the deadline for Washington, I think that Embiid was just too much power for this team to handle, and with Embiid, Harris, Green, and Seth Curry, and even Korkmaz and Matisse Thybulle off the bench, this Philadelphia 76ers team was too strong for the Wizards to handle, as they handled them in 5, I think. They beat them in 3 straight games between games 1, 2, and 3, and then they gave the Wizards kind of game 4, but in game 5 they closed it out. Moving on to the next series between the 2 seed Nets and the 7 seed Celtics. This was also kind of predicted by most people. The Nets, just with so much talent between KD, Kyrie Harden, Landry Shamet, DeAndre Jordan, Jeff Green, Joe Harris, just everybody on that team has so much talent. And compared to this Boston Celtics team with basically only Jason Tatum, Kemba Walker was out for basically half of that series, plus not playing too well in the games that he was playing. Jaylen Brown, of course, he had surgery on his wrist. He was out for the season, and which included, of course, that playoff series. Without Jaylen Brown, offensively and defensively, Kemba Walker on the offensive end. Also, Robert Williams was out for also half the series when Kemba was out, so he was a big loss defensively, as you could possibly argue is their best defender. And on the offensive end, he's a big help too. So those 3 guys being out between Kemba, Robert Williams, and Jaylen Brown, it really kind of ruined their whole entire season. Even with all of them playing, I think that the Celtics could have possibly won 2 to 3 more games in the series, but with all those guys out, it was just Tatum. He had one 50-point game, which came in their 1 win against this team, but the Nets were able to close out the Celtics in 5 games. Moving on to the next series between the Bucks and the Heat. This was probably my pick and a lot of people's picks for most surprising one. We saw last postseason in the bubble, of course, in Orlando, where the Heat beat the 1 seed Bucks as the 5 seed in, I think, 5 or 6 games. I can't really remember which one, but of course, that Bucks team did have Eric Bledsoe, I believe, as their starting point guard. They did not have any guys like Jrue Holiday or PJ Tucker or any of those guys with them. And this past offseason, trading for, like I said, like PJ Tucker and Jrue Holiday, it really helped their team out, and I think that that's where they made a splash the most in that point guard spot to upgrade from Eric Bledsoe. They did trade a lot of depth, but it turned out to be worth it, as they're now fighting for a final spot in the Eastern Conference Finals with Atlanta. But it was definitely enough to get revenge on the Miami Heat as they swept them. Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo did not play good in this series at all. Of course, me being a Heat fan, I really thought that after Game 1 we would be able to still win the series, just because I mean, it was a Middleton game winner, of course, as we remember. It was a really close game, and it came down to that overtime game winner. And with our stars and Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo not playing well at all, I really thought that if they could pick up the pace as well as Eric Spoelstra and everybody else on the Heat roster, we should be able to honestly win 4 games in a row against these teams. But the Bucks just literally made it seem worse. I mean, Jimmy and Bam just did not pick up the pace at all for the rest of the series, as the Bucks just won 3 more straight games after that overtime thriller. And the Bucks completed the sweep to move on to the next round over the Heat in 4 games. The next series between the Hawks and Knicks was actually really surprising to me also. I really thought that the Knicks were going to pull out this win. I really did not think that the Hawks were talented enough. They were still a really young team, as they obviously still are. But so were the Knicks, of course. I mean, led by veteran Derrick Rose. They have guys like Mitchell Robinson, Emmanuel Quickley, Reggie Bullock, who's I'm not really sure how old he is. I think he's average age. As well as Julius Randle, who are also fairly young. And I just thought that both these young teams, I was surprised that both of them made it to the playoffs, but I really did not think that the Hawks could take it to the next step. Basically, Trae Young, I'm saying, I did not think that he would perform well in his first playoff series. And it's not like Julius Randle wouldn't play well, but I think that the Knicks were stronger. And I was just torn apart wrong. The Hawks took a 3-1 lead, and they just completely beat the Knicks in 5 games, which is really surprising, and that showed me that the Hawks were ready to take the next step. I mean, we'll get to the next series later, but it just surprised me so much how this team was able to make it to the next round. But moving on to the Western Conference first round series, as we start off with a pretty obvious one between the Jazz and Grizzlies. The Grizzlies did win this first game, which made a lot of people think, could Memphis really upset this #1 seed Utah Jazz? Donovan Mitchell was out that first game, keep in mind, and I really did not believe that the Grizzlies would be able to win this game. Mitchell was questionable for game 1, but considering it was only a game 1, not like a game 7, he didn't really play. And after the Grizzlies won, I could already tell that with the Grizzlies winning and they got hype, I knew that Donovan Mitchell was going to play in game 2. As soon as he started playing, he was on a tear. Game 2, I think he dropped 37 points it was just to start off his playoff series, and he was just so good, so valuable to this Utah team, as it proved in the playoffs. I mean, they lost the first game versus the Grizzlies, and Donovan Mitchell came in and won 4 straight games for this Utah Jazz team to cap off the series in 5 games. As we move on to the next series, this may have surprised a lot of people, and it probably did surprise a ton of people, but not me at all. I actually had this series exactly correct. I did have the Suns in 6 over the Lakers, and the Suns did beat the Lakers in 6 games. A lot of people had the Lakers literally going to the championship game, which I thought crazy. I knew that LeBron was never 100%, Anthony Davis was never 100%, and I honestly thought that I might have said it in the playoff predictions video. I might have said that I think that he could get injured, and that's exactly what happened. He did injure his groin or hamstring, I forgot what it was, I think it was his groin, and he was out for around half the series, and Chris Paul was out for I think maybe like a game and a half or so, like he was out for half a game and then the game after that. But Devin Booker was still able to carry the Suns past this really strong Lakers team when they're fully healthy, but unfortunately they could not stay healthy, as Devin Booker showed that he was ready for the next step in the NBA playoffs. And like I said, Chris Paul did get injured, which proves that he does still have that bad luck, if I'm being honest, but he would end up being okay, as he would come back for the next round versus the Nuggets. But either way, we move on to the next series between the Nuggets and Trailblazers. This series, I did expect the Nuggets to win, but I did expect it would be kind of close, between 6 or 7 at least. I knew that it would definitely not be a sweep, or in 5, if I'm being honest. I knew that it would come down to a close series, like I said, between 6 or 7 games, as the Nuggets ended up pulling away the victory over Portland in 6 games. Damian Lillard dropped 55 points in, I want to say, game 3, maybe it was? I'm not too sure. I want to say it was game 3, and they still lost, but I know that he did drop 55 points and lost, which was absurd to me, the fact that he did that, and it makes people think, is the new head coach, and now Chauncey Billups, who was just hired the other day, or I think just last night, is Chauncey Billups going to make a trade that includes Damian Lillard? I don't really think that it'll happen. I think that personally, Damian Lillard will stay in Portland. CJ McCollum was, I saw a report, of course, all these reports could be true, they could not be true. He was probably going to get traded, it said, if not certainly going to get traded. Now, I'm not really sure what that could be. Now, I'm not just including my team because I'm a Heat fan, but I've seen multiple reports saying that the Heat would be interested in CJ McCollum, and Tyler Hero could be possibly part of that deal. I don't really know what's going to happen, but the MVP, Jokic, I mixed up the 2 words. Jokic proves that he is able to win a playoff series, at least without Jamal Murray, but the Nuggets didn't really know what they were getting into in the second round versus the Suns. The last series of the first round in the West, and just in total, the Clippers and Mavericks. And this one is very interesting. Now, I did have the Clippers beating the Mavericks, but it was kind of weird what I had them doing. I had the Clippers beating the Mavericks and basically beating everybody else, but if the Clippers could beat the Mavericks, then they were making it to the finals. That's what I was going to think. I had it that if the Clippers beat the Mavericks, they were making the finals if anything, but if the Mavericks beat the Clippers, they were getting beaten by the Jazz in the second round, who I did also expect to beat the Grizzlies. Basically saying, because I think that the Mavericks were the Clippers' worst, it's their biggest fear. We all know that the Clippers are really not that good at guarding wings, and of course, in these playoffs, they've matched up terribly with those really good wings. Between the first round, they have Luka Doncic, second round against Donovan Mitchell, third round now against Devin Booker, and of course, I did have the Clippers beating the Suns in 6 games, or maybe 7, I want to say, but with, of course, fully healthy Kawhi Leonard. And if that's not the case, I don't really see it happening. Game 4 literally starts in about 5 hours by the time I'm recording this, so I'm not really sure how the Clippers will perform. without Kawhi Leonard. But Paul George, I mean, we've seen the Clippers from down 0-2. They ended up winning the series, the first one in 6, first one in 7, second one in 6. And I don't know, this Suns team is definitely stronger than the Mavericks and Clippers, so I'm not really sure how that's going to turn out. But the Clippers, I think that they were very, very lucky that they got past the Mavericks. I think that Luka Doncic definitely could have easily beat them. But I'm not saying that he wasn't trying, because he was, but this Clippers team was just really, really good. Kawhi Leonard stepped up like crazy. Paul George had some really good moments in that series as they ended up beating the Clippers. The Clippers ended up beating the Mavericks in 7 games in a very, very exciting series, the only Game 7 in the first round. Moving on, in holy, two surprising second round matchups here in the Eastern Conference. Hawks and 76ers are the first ones up, as the Hawks ended up taking down the 1 seed 76ers in 7 games. Now, I know what the first thought when we think of the series is Benjamin Simmons. What will happen to him? Is he traded? Is he just gone? Is he going to Shanghai? I don't really know what's going to happen. I mean, I really didn't think that he was going to get... I can never see any superstar get traded. I mean, not saying that Ben Simmons is a superstar, but I can never see any single star or superstar get traded at all. Like, I would never have imagined Russell Westbrook getting traded for John Wall. I would never have imagined Anthony Davis getting traded for Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, and Josh Hart, and more. It's just crazy that Ben Simmons could literally be on a different team other than the 76ers next season. But I think that I honestly agree with the move. I mean, I do expect kind of Ben Simmons to be traded. I think that's time that Ben Simmons parted ways with Philly and that Philly parted ways with Ben Simmons. It's time to move on, mutual ways, and I don't really know what they're going to do with him. Possibly like a guy like CJ McCollum could be a good swap partner, meaning like a CJ McCollum for Ben Simmons trade, but that is not what we're talking about. We may have, but that is not what we are talking about. We may have Ben Simmons trade talks in another video, but we are here to talk about the 76ers versus Hawks 7-game series in the semifinals. Now, this was just absurd to me. Trae Young is just my most underrated player in the, I mean, my most underrated player. Like not like my pick for the most underrated player in the league, but he's just I underrate him too much. I did not think that he would be able to lead this young Hawks team with Capella, Collins, Herter, Reddish. I guess Reddish was out, but Gallinari, I guess, is a veteran on that team, but Okongwu. I did not think that Trae Young will be able to lead this team past the 1 seed Sixers. It's just wow. But credit to this Hawks team, honestly. I underrated them so much. And now they're against the Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals. Now the Bucks completely destroyed them yesterday. But in that first game, the Hawks were able to come out with the W. And it always looks good with that underdog winning, because I would love to see Trae Young versus Devin Booker in the finals. Imagine. And now the series that everybody has been waiting for, the Bucks versus the Nets. Giannis versus KD, Middleton versus James Harden, and Jrue Holiday versus Kyrie Irving. You can tell that one side is kind of better than the other side, but the Bucks ended up beating the Nets in 7 games, of course, because of injuries. I'm gonna say it. If everybody was healthy, the Nets would have won. And I think that a lot of people can agree with me too. I don't really know how you don't agree with me. Game 7 came down to an overtime W with the Bucks winning, and only KD was playing in that game basically. Actually, well, I mean Harden was, but like Harden goes out in Game 1 and stays out for Game 2, comes back in Game 3, except in Game 2, or I want to say 3 it might have been, Kyrie Irving injured his ankle, so Harden goes out, Kyrie Irving is in. Then Kyrie goes out, Harden comes back in, KD's in for the whole entire time, but he still cannot lead this whole entire Nets team. Like, if we look at this Nets team, it's basically Bruce Brown, and then like Landry Shamet, Joe Harris, Kevin Durant, and Jeff Green maybe, or no, I guess DeAndre Jordan, or who's the center? Blake Griffin. Without those guys and Harden and Kyrie, and of course you have Harden or Kyrie playing for each other, but I think that there's a big 3 for a reason. It can't be a big 3 just to have one of the guys always out, and this team can't really stay healthy, which is kind of concerning. Of course, they only played around half a season together, more than half a season, actually, like 75% of the season. But with all them being not healthy for the whole entire time, they only played about like maybe 10 games, I want to say, together in the regular season, which was a big factor. But I mean, it's going to be surprising to see what the Bucks can do versus this Hawks team, and I personally think that they will be able to beat them and move on to the finals. It all depends who they go against, but I do think that KD was not able to lead this team without their third star in Kyrie or Harden in those 7 games, whoever was out and in. But the Bucks proved that they can take on a superstar like KD. PJ Tucker did a tremendous job. I mean, everybody's talking about Giannis, Holiday, Middleton, Brook Lopez, honestly, Dante DiVincenzo, Pat Connaughton, but PJ Tucker was a really good piece for this Bucks team. You don't see him scoring at all. You might see him make it 1 or 2 corner threes, as he is a corner specialist, but you really have to focus on him guarding guys like Giannis, or sorry, not Giannis, that's his teammate. You have to really focus on him guarding guys like KD and Harden, and I guess in the first round they went against like Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo. Like, he's really a top-tier defender for them. He's been a big help guarding these superstars, like I said, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, and KD. And now onto the western side of the second round, Clippers versus Jazz. Now the Clippers were down 0-2 as the Jazz picked up the first 2 games in ease in Utah. We're back in Los Angeles. The Clippers get the first dub. Clippers get the second dub. Kawhi is out for game number 5. It's over, right? It's over. It's just over. The Jazz are going to win game 5, and then they're going to win game 6 in Los Angeles. It's fine if the Clippers win game 6. We'll just take game 7 in our hometown. We're going to game 5 without Kawhi. The Clippers pull it out. Paul George goes from pandemic P to playoff P, or P Pfizer. I know it's Pfizer, but P Pfizer P. Game 6, the Clippers miraculously win in their hometown. They come back from a 26-point deficit and beat this number 1 seed Jazz team in a historic comeback game. And the Clippers are moving on to the Western Conference Finals for, I think, the first time in franchise history. Right? Am I right there? I could be wrong. But the main thing is that the Clippers ended up winning 2 games in a row without Kawhi, and mainly just winning 4 games in a row, 2 of them without Kawhi, including that 26-point historic comeback without him. Last but not least, we're not going to be really showing highlights for this one because it's the Suns versus Nuggets. The Suns really just kind of swept them, honestly. I mean, the Nuggets really had nothing without Jamal Murray against the Suns team. But that will wrap up the video. We hope you guys enjoyed, and I mean, let me know any more suggestions, because I can literally do anything between football and basketball. But yeah, that's the second podcast episode. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you go check out the link in bio. For the Spotify and Anchor, make sure you go follow or subscribe, you know, whatever it is on there, and turn on post notifications if there even is. If you're watching on Spotify and Anchor, go check out the YouTube search. Channel name is Huddy. I don't even know what it looks like there, but that will wrap up the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Have a great day. See you in the next one. Peace.